Hey, everybody, you're back. And look who else we got. Coogie. He's maybe he was on twice, I believe, or thrice, and now Coogie says he was getting jealous. He's not really a jealous cat, as you know. He's a lover. He's the one I trained not to spray anymore. So he's like 7 years old, and he's been good for 2 years. By the way, when you're training a cat not to spray, it doesn't happen overnight, okay? You have to work with them. I'll have an episode on that. You must carry around with you some vinegar. Vinegar takes the spray smell away. Plus, you have to work with the cat when they're doing it. After it's done, forget about it. They don't know you. It's like a dog. You can't hit a dog for whatever he does. You come home and he's done something. You just gotta look at him and say, I'm very disappointed in you. And then catch him in the act. Cats and dogs, gotta catch them in the act. Kids, you know what I mean. Sometimes you do things that are negative and you don't even know you were doing it negatively until someone points it out to you. And then the slipper or the belt or whatever it is, they remind you that it was negative. With the animals, it's a little different. You have to catch them in the act. So today, we're going to have something for you that I've been promising you for a very, very long time. It's on the cave. Uncle Martin, the thumbnail will be the cave. I know I touched upon it on episode 27, 28, episode 30, 38, Moon versus the Sun. It's when I spent my first night in the cave. And I guess I left out a few things, and so that's why I'm gonna bring them up now. Um, it has to do with out in the desert when I had the best time of my life in this particular cave. And as you recall, it was episode 38 where the mumbler, he wasn't mumbling until he came back that night, after that night in the cave. They couldn't understand him. He was just a mumbler. They had to get rid of him. He went into a home. Well, that's what they told me. I'm sure he's out of the home now. I'm thinking optimistically. Then there was the roamer. The roamer, he don't know what happened to him. But this is a cave. All right, let me put it to you this way. This is how the shaman medicine man. Okay, perfect. Coog, you got to get put down. I believe it was episode 27, medicine. That episode. I showed you when he said, go find a rock. I found the rock. It was this way. Then, as I showed you before, it was that. But I didn't have a flashlight. Can everybody see in there? Can you see? Can you see? Can you see? I use it for all my grindings and stuff. This is what you do, kids. It's called a pedestal. I like my my garlic and rosemary, whatever hard herbs you have. You gotta have one of these, and they sell them, but not like this. So when he said go find a rock, I found it. So that's what I want to start with. That's what happened. I got back to the cave. I show him this, and his eyes open up about as wide as they did after I tell you what happened was in the cave. Okay, um, before I do that, I have to just go just a smidge back so this it'll come full circle. Have you kids ever been to a powwow? I know everybody says, mom and dad says, you're going to sit down, we're going to have a powwow. That means, usually you're going to have a gathering and things are going to happen at that. It's like a board meeting. There's the powwows that I'm talking about in Flagstaff when I grew up, kindergarten, 59, 60, for 4 years. We always seemed to end up at one, usually around July, it seemed like. And it was up in Flagstaff. Sometimes there was a parade, but I remember more in Fort Tut Hill. It's called Fort Tut Hill. It's a park. You can go to it this very day. Fort Tut Hill had the best times there. And what happened was they always had these powwows. It's Indian regalia. They just dress up in such fancy clothes. Not clothes. Yeah, clothes. It's different beads. Uh, just Google a powwow for crying out loud. Everybody can just it'll right there. Okay, it's the best looking colors that these Indians get dressed up, feathers and the whole thing. I'm telling you, it's going to be full circle. I promise. But you have to look up powwow to see where Uncle Martin's coming from here. Um, I I went to these, so I know how Indian dress was when they were dressed up. It's either competitive or traditional. Usually the powwows. Competitive is where they win prizes. I don't remember any prizes, so it must have been traditional. The ones that I went to. Okay. Um, so we got that out of the way. That they were always dressed in a real pretty blue, yellow, gold, white, green, a little bit of red, but very noticeably elk usually. I'm just saying, I saw them in their best dress. Okay, so we're now back at the cave. Finally, I show I showed Miguel. Well, I went, I can find a rock. And he said, yeah. And I said, yeah, yeah. And his eyes open up like this. And he says, oh, well, yeah. And he wanted to trade me. He wanted to trade me. I think he had a couple mules. He had a bunch of food. I don't know. They were traveling on a couple mules. There was, as I said, there were 7 of them. There was Miguel the shaman. He had a Chila that was also Miguel. Let's call him Junior. It's just easier than 2 Miguels. Gets confusing. So Junior had a girlfriend, and that'll come into it also, but not right now. She was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. She wasn't quite maybe she was half Indian. I don't know, but she was a very beautiful girl. And the other Indian girl, there were 7 of them, so you know how my numbers are. The other 3, 4, other 4 girls, Native women, they were all together. They were always together. As I said in the past, all the other stuff in episode 27 and 28. I'm not going to go there. So after the rock scene, we're sitting down, and by the way, I don't know if I told you before, but when you walk into the cave, it's a hole in the middle of the mountain. It's a dome mountain, and that's what he was saying. Thousands of years ago, this was not always a dome. It used to be a pyramid. This whole mountain we're in the cave used to be a pyramid. Thousands of years ago. So really, and that brings back the roamer on episode 38, Moon versus the Sun. Remember when I said he came back? The mumbler came back, couldn't understand him. But when the roamer came back, what he said was, the cave was falling down. It was the end of the world. There was rocks all over it. And you remember that story? Well, that's what he tapped into the night he spent there, because it must have been during that time period where The pyramid now was being broken up by some kind of earth change. The earth was changing, and he must have tapped into those records. See? Never hit me until just like a few minutes ago. So you guys are really helping me. So he's telling me about, not only was it a pyramid, but for thousands of years, there's a trail that goes around this whole mountain that the Indians have been using for initiation. It's a cave that it's for initiation. And kids, you know what? We all get initiated somewhere along our lifespan at different levels, depending on where we're at, where we're going. Every time, I believe, you can get initiated. Well, hopefully we're getting higher initiations than lower. I'm sure you can get both sides, but I'm going with the higher initiations personally. So we know that thousands of years that this particular cave, when he said it's the mouth, they call it the mouth. This cave is the mouth. I said the mouth? Mouth? We'll get to that too. So while he's talking about how it's an initiation, and while I'm eating all these goodies that I spoke of in the past, the idea is that and by the way, when a shaman takes you under his wing, as they say, and feeds you all these goodies, they're supposed to be with you that whole time, by the way. That is one of their laws that I didn't know about until just recently. And that's why I'm bringing up this little story of the thumbnail, the cave. As I promised in the past, I would do it. So this is the time, because I got more information. Whenever I get more information for you, I will be there to explain what happened. A true story that happened to Uncle Martin. So we have initiation. His eyes kind of bugging out when he found the rock that he was asking everybody to find, and I found one. And then during that time period of what I just told you, when I heard him say that this is the mouth of the cave, I thought in my mind, well, then I think I have something to say. And that was, I turned around and I looked out into the dark, because it was a nice roaring fire in this, that was a circular round. Okay, look at it this way. When you walk up into it, it's flat, but that flatness is a big round circle that's an inverted pyramid. The fireplace, the fire pit, is an inverted, I know because I cleaned it out a few times. It's an inverted perfect pyramid going down this way. So I'm thinking that was going down that way, and at one time it went down that way. That's pretty interesting, isn't it? So I'm just trying to give you the layout of the cave. So we have that, and then once you have that, which you can lay around if you want to, and then it goes kind of a flat surface, and then it goes this way, up this way, and this way. A seating arrangement from that corner of the cave all around this way. I'm going to have to say it would sit easily 35, 38 people easily, just sitting there, because you could sit and then have your head up, and then the cave itself would just kind of go back a little, but that's it. That's all there was to the cave. So it was kind of a seating arrangement with a nice little fire pit. Basically, that's all the cave was. There was no big spelunking. They call it spelunking, where you go deeper into the cave. Nah, it was just, so that's what it called, the mouth of the cave. So when he said it's the mouth of the cave, I said, the mouth of the cave? I have something to say. He says, oh, really? What are you going to say? So I turned around I let all of them sit on that seating arrangement that I just spoke of. I turned around and I looked out into the darkness because that's all you could see was dark. You couldn't even see any stars. It was just black. So as I looked out there, I knew I was looking right at those spiritual Indian hot springs that I just felt was a little negative. And I haven't even gotten there yet. So what I did was I pretended that I had a bow and arrow. And I took from the back of my quiver. Well, I said, it's a mouth. It's a mouth. So I said, all you negative energies, be gone. And then I had a bow, an arrow that in my mind, I was taking blue lightning bolt arrows, and I was going. I went, and I went, and I went 3 times. 3 times I shot my electric blue arrows out into this negative darkness that I just said be gone. It was just something I felt like doing. I'm sorry. Not really. So immediately after I did that, what happened was, this is what the exciting part is. Well, one of the exciting parts. Well, for some people, maybe not everybody, maybe somebody would say, oh, that's not very original. I had that. I had someone say that to me. I'm sorry. So immediately after I did that, on my right arm, out of this dark pitch, black, I want to say a wasp or yellowjack. I looked it up. I Googled, what's the biggest yellowjack or wasp in Arizona? And they said an inch. It was an inch. An inch? There's no way. Because that's what happened. The first one landed right on my right arm. And I know what an inch is because if you go to your finger, this first digit is 1 inch. And then you go to this digit is 2 inches. And that's what I had. I had 2 inches of a yellow. It was black and yellow. All right. Is it a wasp or a yellowjack? All right. It's semantics. So I had one of them land on my right arm. And then right after that, another one came in from the dark and landed nose. His nose was right on the other guy's behind. And then right after that one, another one came in. There was 3 that landed exactly nose to butt next to each other. And so what do you do? What do you do when this happens? Well, I just looked at him and I said, hello, brothers. And then after I said hello, brothers, they went. The first guy that landed on me, he went 1, and the other guys were following him. So they went 1 time around, 2 times around, 3 times around. And on the 3rd time, when he got back to the place where he first started, he took off. And the other guy took off. And the other guy took off. All 3 of them came in that way and left that way after 3 times, 1, 2, 3, on my right arm. Just took right back out. So I said, boy, that's really interesting. Now I'm thinking in my mind, I think I'm going to turn around and ask this shaman, what is he, because everything, kids, everything you see out there, a bird, a snake, a coyote, an owl, everybody will tell you, even people that aren't Indians, they're going to say they believe in signs. Well, anyway, and Indians really do believe in signs, by the way. So I figured, this guy, he's a shaman. He must know what this means. So I turned around, and all I said, I was thinking, well, what do you think? And I looked at him, and his eyes were bigger than when I came in with this rock. his eyes were like twice the size of the first. His eyes were big this time, but his eyes were like twice the size. And you know what he said? Do you know what he said, kids? You know what he said? It's time for us to go. Time to go? I thought you were going to spend the night here with me. And see, I just ran into a friend of mine, Benjamin, and he knows about all this stuff. that when a shaman does this with you, feeds you all the goodies, he's supposed to spend the whole night with you. That's one of their laws. But I didn't know any of the laws. Not then. So I'm thinking, you gonna go? And he didn't even say another word. That's all he had. It's time for us to go. And I looked at all of them. They just got up and they left the cave. They left me there by myself. All by myself. I thought, well, gee, yeah, I got a warm fire here. I think I'll just lay down next to the fire. Okay? That's what I did. So when we go, if you ever want to go back to episode 27 or 28, I'm thinking, okay, I think it's 28. That's when I talked about the dream I had with the goodies. Yeah, the dream and other dreams that saved my life. So I'm gonna just rehash that little dream where you don't have to go back to 28 if you don't have to. I'm just saying. So I dreamt in the cave about a dream. I was dreaming in a cave of a cave, and I had my goodies, which was all the goodies that I was eating. I'm not gonna go into that again. And then the way I was trying to get to find that big light, that bright light, and I couldn't get it. I kept getting around the corner, and then it went over to another corner, and then I get over that corner, and then it was over another corner, and then I get over there, and it was over here, and every time I got real close, it was over here. It was like, I couldn't get it. I was trying to. And then the voice said, well, you're going for the reflection, buddy boy. Yeah, you got goodies here that are only going to bring you to the reflection. That's when I let go of the goodies. Okay, so that's what that was on that episode, that we are all going to drink and eat everything we can to raise our consciousness. And that was the dream, saying you don't need any of those things. And I already went through all that in episode 29, kind of, excuse me, about the endorphins and things that you got already in your brain. You got everything in your brain already. You got those endorphins that are like 18 to 33% even higher than morphine. And so, why do you keep eating things? We just still have things to learn, I guess. That's all. So right after that dream, this is where it gets interesting, kids. I woke up after that dream, and what I did was I was looking at the fire had gone down immensely to where all I just saw was really nice, cool embers inside the fire pit. And then, as I looked away from that, I looked at all the seating where all the gang was seating. The gang was sitting there, but now they're not that gang. It was another gang. It was at least 18 to 22. I'm not going to say old, because we went over that too. Old doesn't, no. You have more experience. So a lot of male Indians in the best dressed up regalia, like a powwow. That's what I'm saying. They were dressed up like a powwow. The finest clothes that I ever saw, other than at the powwow. And they were all sitting there. They were all sitting, really pretty cool moccasins too. Definitely elk, it had nice beads and everything. I was admiring their shoes, and their feathers, and I was just looking at all of them, and I was looking at them. I kind of, they weren't looking at me mean, but they weren't saying anything. They were closed-lipped, looking at me. And I looked at them and I said, hello, brothers. That's all I said. hello, brothers. Sort of like what I said to those three wasps. And then after I said, hello, brothers, I said, I go back to sleep. So I went back to sleep, woke up, normal day. And so when I got back down, because it was like 6, 7 miles back to the springs, Indian spiritual hot springs, nudist commune going for breatharian that were celibate. That place that I haven't talked about yet. That when I was barefoot with just a blanket and a staff, right? I mean, I had mentioned that in the past, and this is where we're at right now. I'm back at the springs, and and I said, "Where's the shaman medicine man?" They said he's gone. He left. He left. He left. Where'd he go? We don't know. He just left. How'd you do up there? I had a great night's sleep. That's all. I didn't tell anybody anything. I wanted to tell him, but he was gone. Well, he did come back, and that would be another story of another time up in the cave. Not with him, but with the girlfriend of his Chila that they sent me up there with. I just really don't want to go there right now. I was wondering that cave, why I saw all those guys and I didn't get to see Milarepa, right? And Milarepa, I'm not going to go into right now. That was episode 44, Halloween. He apparently had been in that cave. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about that. So I ran into, again, recently a fellow named Benjamin that told me that the spiritual help that I have was basically telling that shaman to get out of there. Because normally they're supposed to stay there. So I'm thinking now, was he really that positive of a guy? You know, obviously, I've spoke about fear so many times in so many of the episodes. Uncle Martin is pretty much on the. I'm telling you, when that comes my way, I challenge it. All right, because it's usually from within myself. That's the only way you can really have fear, kids. Because anybody that's trying to implement it on you, I'll tell you what, kids. I'll tell you what. There's a little secret, kids. When anybody tries to put fear on you, you look at these people. They might look big and strong and mighty, powerful people. But within them, they have more fear going on than you would imagine. They are the most fearful people that would try to put fear upon you. And I'm going to stay right now with all the bullies that you're dealing with, kids, on whatever level it is. And I say, hopefully you've started at least from episode 1 and 2 to see that I started out there on just how to take care of these guys right off the top. Right off the top. Just go with episode 1 and 2 and you'll see that that's the way to do it. Plus, I'm going a little further now to tell you that all bullies have fear in them. They have so much fear because what they're fearful of is somebody's gonna beat them up one of these days. And I've given you the tools to do that without even fighting, all right? Or definitely you got up to 99% of the time that you're not going to have a fight if you follow any one of those little things. And then from there, I've told you the stories of my life on the situations that I had in some of the schools. 20 schools, and I graduated, and I didn't even tell you half the bully situations that I had. I just gave you little tidbits on the kind of the ones that kind of stood out for me, but there were so many that you do have tools, if you wish, to take care of how, of course, how to beat up a bully is negative. How to beat up a bully is negative, comma. Without having a fight is positive. And that's all I've been always trying to get across to you. I never said how to beat up a bully. I know it's coming up, Uncle Martin, how to beat up a bully. But that comma without having a fight seems to be not coming up as much. That's the way this world is, though, kids. It seems to be a little negative sometimes. So all I'm saying is I just gave you a little story of the cave, and how this guy that was a shaman that everybody was afraid of, he was looking at me, and he had more fear than I've seen in a long time in a person with so much experience. And especially the knowledge and understanding that I thought he had. That he had so much, he couldn't even spend the night. He couldn't even spend the night in that cave. So I'm just saying, kids, everywhere in the walks of life, there's going to be someone that may try to implement fear on you, or you'll say, oh, that mighty person that you believe to be he's got a lot of fear. He's got a lot of fear. So you see, this is one of the things we're here to learn. We must get rid of our fear. What's the first thing biblically? If anybody read that big book that has a lot of books, that one book that has a lot of books, everybody's popping up out of nowhere. Where are these guys popping up from? But wherever they popped up from, what's the first words they say? Fear not. Fear not. Or it's have no fear. Isn't that interesting? So we got that in that book, and then we got the Egyptians, and I talked about that earlier, but that one passage of out of the 42 rules, no king, no queen, no emperor, no god can ever, ever, ever incite fear upon any man, woman, or child. Well, it looks to me like on this planet, terrific or terrible, depending on how you're looking at it, there's a lot of people trying to incite fear on people. I don't know, it's just something I've noticed. So I just wanted to leave you with that, just something to think about. That maybe within us, we have to eliminate more of our fears. And I think we can do it. And I know you can do it now that you know that there's another way of looking at it. So until we meet again, which will be next Sunday, I'll have another true story for you. And until then, aloha. And let mighty victory be with you all week.